Hi everyone, it's Michaela from Ascend Smarter Intervention, where we make research-based reading intervention easy. For our intervention tip of the week this week, we wanted to run you through how we're running an online session for our kindergarten students. Now, if you're like us and you've just recently transitioned all of your students from in-person meetings, whether that's one-on-one setting or a small group or even a full classroom, into the online space, then you know, like we do, that it can be a challenge, especially if you're working with younger kiddos like these kindergartners. Our kindergartners have a lot of attention needs to keep them engaged, and in an online format that can be pretty challenging. So we wanted to run you through some tips and tricks that we use in order to make these online sessions effective. First things first, split your lessons up if your students can't attend for a full hour. The reason I say hour is because in our clinic, that's typically when we'll see students and the length of an appointment. Typically, we'll see them once or twice a week for an hour at a time. But when we transition to online, we recognize that for our kindergartners, this was just too long of a time period to ask them to sit at a computer and attend for. So we've split them into half-hour sessions so that they can stay engaged the whole time and not need us to redirect them constantly throughout a full hour. Use your clinical judgment. If you have students and you're like, nope, they're doing great, they can't attend for an hour, that's great. If you think that they can't do that and you want to switch to half an hour, that's great too. In the lesson that I run through today, I am going to run through the whole thing as if I was meeting with a student once. But no, if you're going to run a lesson like this, you can split it halfway through. Typically, we recommend between the reading and writing portions so that you break it up for your student. Now, as I run through the lesson today, I'm going to spend some of the time talking as if I was online with a student. So you can imagine that in my Zoom video over here, there's a kindergartner here chatting with me so that you can see how I would engage with them on the computer. Some of the time I will be talking directly to you as the instructor so that you can see how I'm error correcting, or you can see why I'm doing something the way that I am. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments so that we can answer them for you, or connect with us on social media so that we can get any of your questions answered. But without further ado, I'm going to jump right in. So for our online lessons, we like using a PowerPoint because we feel like that gives us another level of engagement with our students. We'll set the background as an image so that the students can't move the background, but they have movable pieces that they can use to engage with the lesson materials. Let me explain what I mean. Today, the lesson we're going to run through is consonants and short vowels, C and O. So as we go through, the first thing we'll do is our alphabet sequencing. So if I was talking to a student, I would say, all right, we're going to do our alphabet drill. I'm going to go ahead and set my timer, and I want to see how quickly you can put these letters in order. I usually use a timer because it makes it more of a game to them. For some students, I won't use it if they can't handle being timed, if they'd rather just take their time and put them in order. It's up to you and how you feel like your student will engage best. So as we go through, they would move these pieces. You can see that they're able to drag the letters around to put them in alphabetical order. So if you are watching this with a student or you're going through, go ahead and pause it so that your students can move these around. I will link the blog where you can go and download this lesson in the description so that you can go ahead and grab it. So they would go through and put all of these in order. So I'll go ahead and finish that now. And as they go through, I want to see if they can put them in order, like I said. If they miss any, like let's say they put Q for P or P for Q, or they miss anything, it depends on the student if I'll error correct them right away or if I'll have them check it at the end. A lot of the times my students will put a letter that doesn't belong, and then when they get to that letter in the sequence, they'll recognize it. So I'm also looking to see if they can self-correct themselves. You'll also notice that our vowels are in red and our consonants are in blue. And we do that on purpose so that students can differentiate between the two letters. So now that they're all here, if my student was timing themselves or if I was timing them, I'll typically just use my phone timer to do that. And I'll let them know if they beat their time from last week. That's a great way to keep them engaged again and make sure that they're going through at that level. So once it's all in order, The next thing we'd move on to is our sound drill. Now, if you have a sound drill deck or a phonogram drill deck, you can hold it right up to the screen so that they can see it. I don't have one with me, so what I would do now is pull down the letters that I want to assess them on. So for example, if we had previously learned the letter B, I pull it down and say, what sound does this letter make? They would say B, and then we could put it back. Then we could pull down another letter. So it depends on what letters you want to test them on. If you want to see if they know them, that's great. Typically, I try to pull in ones that have been explicitly taught in the past, and then I'll pull some review ones to make sure that they are reviewing previously learned concepts. The next page is our phonological awareness page. Now, in our program, we teach phonological awareness skills in a systematic scope and sequence. In this particular lesson, we're teaching sentence segmenting. So I would say to my student, okay, we're going to do an activity where I'm going to read you a sentence, and I want to know how many words you hear in that sentence. For each word that you hear, you can move one of these stars into the boxes so that we can count. If they have any questions, I'll answer them, and then we'll jump in. The first sentence is, the frog is green. Go ahead and move the stars over. As your student goes, they should be moving. The frog is green. If they get it, that's great, you can move on. If not, I would go through and do exactly what I just did and demonstrate to them or model for them what words in that sentence you hear. Sentence number 2, I can jump. I can jump. And I should have been a little bit neater there in the third box. The next one, the kite is flying. The kite is flying. Now, if you're paying attention, I just made an error specifically so I could show you how I would error correct here. The kite is flying. I would talk to my students and say, flying is actually going to be one word, but it's 2 syllables. So we're going to have the kite is flying, and that's only going to be one word. The next sentence, the black dog ran away. So we have the black dog ran away. And finally, my sister and I like to do art. My sister and I like to do art. So you can see that the students can move these stars around. This page will not move because we've set that as the background image on the slide, but they can move the stars so that they can engage in the lesson. Now, if for whatever reason your student cannot physically move these pieces, maybe they're on an iPad or another device that's not compatible with screen control, we use Zoom for all of our screen control and lessons. But if your student can't, I would recommend having them pull paper clips or coins or something at home so that they can be moving them on their table or by themselves and telling you how many words there were so that then you can move the stars to visually check it with your student. So for example, with the frog is green, this first sentence, they might only have crayons at home. So they're going to move the 4 crayons, the frog is green, from the pile, tell you there was 4 words, and then you can move the stars just to confirm with them. As we keep going, the next thing we're going to do is introduce our key letters for the day. So our first letter is the letter C, our keyword cat. We have a nice image of a cat here to really cement that into our students' brains. And we're going to have them go through and write the letter C 3 times and saying, while they write it, C says K. The reason we have them do it 3 times is we really want that repetition, and we're going to have them say it while they write it so they have a multisensory component in there. So I'll go ahead and write on the screen. If your student has the workbook pages printed out, they can absolutely do this on their pages. You can give them screen control, again, as long as their device is compatible so that they can write it on the screen. Or you can have them write it on a whiteboard. They can skywrite or just say, C says K. They can finger trace in the carpet so that they have another multisensory piece there. Again, it's really up to you. For now, I'll go ahead and just write on the screen. So we'll do C says k, C says k, C says k. And again, we like to follow an I do, we do, you do model. So I would demonstrate this first for my student, do it with them on the second round, and then have them do it independently on the third so that they're gaining that independence throughout. For now, we know that C has one sound. We know that it can say two, but we're only introducing the k sound based on where we're at in the scope and sequence. And we're going to brainstorm words with that k sound. So this is where you can have students moving these letters around again. These are movable so that they can come up with words with the k sound. So if I was talking to my students, I would say, what words do you know that also have that sound? And maybe they would say cap. So we'd move k, a, p. If you'd rather them write, they can also write into those lines. It really is up to you. We'll read some words with the letter C. So we're going to blend k, at, cat, cat, k, up, cup, k, up, cop. Again, your students at this point, in at least the scope and sequence that we use, have only been explicitly taught the letter C. If they don't recognize A, T, U, P, O, or the P, that's okay. I will let my students try again, knowing that some of them might have seen these before at home or at school, but if they don't know those letters yet, you can absolutely provide it for them. So maybe they're reading k, a. I'll jump in and say k, at, and just explain, we'll learn this letter later, but that A is going to say a. Down here, you can build some other words with the letter C. So maybe together, you and your student want to build the word cap, like we had up here. We'll find k, a, p. And you can move this around a little bit. Instead of cap, maybe you want to change that to cup. So we're going to find the U. Whatever words you want to build with them, you can use these spaces to do so. I'm going to go ahead and clear the drawing on my screen. Again, we're using Zoom for all of our video messages, for all of our lessons. I like Zoom a lot because it does give you the ability to annotate on the screen. So you can absolutely use that in your lessons. They do have free accounts, and that's really what we recommend. The second letter that we introduce in this lesson is O, and our keyword is otter. So again, I'm going to introduce it to my student. The next letter we're learning today is O. O says ah, like an otter. Can I hear you say O says ah? And they would say O says ah. We would do the same thing that we did with C in terms of annotating, and we would write O says ah, O says ah, O says ah. For now, I am just focusing again on these short vowel sounds here. I'm not going to worry about the long vowel sounds just yet. So we're going to say that O has one sound. We can absolutely tell them it does have two. So O has a long sound and a short sound. But today we're only focused on that ah sound. You can move these letters again over here to come up with words with that ah sound. So maybe we come up with k, ah, p, like we had in the last lesson with that C sound. So here we're reviewing both C and O. If your student's coming up with a word and you want to help them decode it, maybe they come up with olive. Say, okay, olive. How do we get that ah sound in the beginning? Ah, and then you can help them find the rest of these letters over here to finish building out that word. You'll go through the reading and the segmenting and blending here, so they should know k, ah. You can provide T if necessary. K, ot, cot, n, ot, not, d, og, dog. And then again, build words with that ah sound. So maybe you're building the word not, n, ah, t. There's my T. As you work your way through lessons and they do have more sounds that they've been explicitly taught, this is a great way to pull in systematic review. So maybe since we haven't learned N yet, instead of not, I'm going to ask them to figure out k, cot. Yes, it is right here. Maybe I could be more creative in the word that I'm choosing, but that way they can review C, O, and then I would provide T if they're not sure of it yet. As you go through, we're going to do more blending tasks to really work on that recognition and reading skills. So they're going to blend k, a, d, cod, k, a, n, can, and so on as they go through, working on both those C and O sounds. Once again, if there's any letters that they have not been explicitly taught and they don't know, you can absolutely let them try if they have seen it at school or at home, but know that as you go through, they will learn more sounds that they can use to more independently decode these words. But for now, you can absolutely help them in those instances. This next activity, my students absolutely love. Now, I have them move the stars over to cover any words that start with C. They just really love seeing the pictures and figuring these out. So, for example, igloo. Do we hear a k sound at the beginning? No. Zipper. No. Umbrella. Nope, we don't hear a k. Leaf. Cow. Oh, I heard a k in cow, so I'm going to move a star over to cover that. So as you go through, again, they'll help, or they will find it. You can help them if they need, but you'll go through strawberry, grapes, elephant, carrot has a k, volcano, mouse, cactus, yo-yo, banana, watermelon, ball, jellyfish, muffin, lion, cat, octopus. Ooh, octopus has an ah sound, but we'll get there in our next activity. Right now we're just doing k. Bird, hot dog, car, and dog. Now, in some instances, your students might come up with something different than what you would come up with here. So, for example, some students might look at this. I had said bird. They might say flamingo. You can definitely guide them into whatever word that you want them to find, but you can also talk about, yeah, that could be a bird. It could be a flamingo. A flamingo is a kind of bird. Do either of those start with C or that k sound? Nope, so we're going to keep going. You'll do that again for the ah sounds. And then we go into this letter recognition task. This is great for making sure your students have the fluency and automaticity to find these letters quickly. So what I would do, in Zoom, they do have the annotation capability, like I mentioned before, and they have a little circle icon that you can use. So I'd go through and have them find C in each of these lines. So they'd have C here, C, C, and now they are in different fonts, so they're not all going to look exactly the same, but they should be able to recognize the different C's. And this is also a great task to help with their executive functioning skills. I'll have students go through and jump all over the place trying to find the C's, and they'll miss some. So this is a really great way to say, oh, let's go in order so that we don't miss any. Let's slow down a little bit to make sure we're double checking ourselves. You can really adapt it to fit whatever your students need there. You'll do that again for the letter O. And then we go into this matching task. So they have to read the word or decode the word and find the picture that matches. So we've been doing C for all of our examples today, so let's go ahead to the O and use this one as the example. You can help your students decode these again. They should know that ah sound, so let's tap out these words together. Ul, ah, g, log. Do we have a picture of a log? We do, so we're going to match it. B, a, x, box. We'll match that one. D, a, g, dog. Now, this is one where students might get confused and go this way. We look at the next word, ox, fox, and realize these two last pictures don't look like a fox. This one looked most like a fox. So we're going to make that line match, and this dog is actually pointing to the dog down here. Odd, rod. Now, your students might not know what each of these words mean. For example, I had a student the other day that didn't know what rod meant. However, this is somewhere that we can teach process of elimination here. Go ahead and find that one. And we can also use that as a vocabulary task. So I was able to explain, oh, rod in this case is a fishing rod. Another word for that is a fishing pole. It's what you would take with you when you go fishing, and you can throw the line into the water and reel in the fish. So you can use that as a vocabulary task as well. After that task, we're going to go into sight words. Now, you might have heard us before call portions of our lesson the red word portion. We do like to go through red words with some of our students. At the kindergarten level, we are doing sight words, or those frequently seen words that they're going to need to recognize in order to read fluently. So our first one is the letter A. So we would say, this letter A by itself does make a word. We can pronounce it A or A. Or I'm sorry, A or A. A's typical sound is A. Then we would go through and show it to them in a sentence. A fat cat ran, or a fat cat ran. Our next word, the. The rat on the mat is fat. Now, again, they might not be able to decode all of this on their own. That's okay. They will get there. We do want to be introducing them to those sight words. So I would have them read that word themselves, and you can help with the rest of the words in that sentence. I. Whenever we're talking about I or me, we're going to capitalize that letter I. I sat on the log. 2. The frog hops to the log, and so on. You'll go through the rest of these in the lesson so that you're teaching them those sight words online as well. The next part of the lesson that we go through is our auditory drill. Now, in the auditory drill, we are asking students to listen to us say a sound, and they need to find the letter that makes that sound. Now, a lot of times people will try to skip the auditory drill because it is very close to the sound drill they completed at the beginning. That's a whole topic for another day, but in short, I'm going to ask that you don't do that. They work on reciprocal processes. So the sound drill, where a student sees the letter and has to identify the sound, is really going to help with the reading components. But the auditory drill, where they hear the sound and have to produce the letter, is going to be crucial for spelling. So please don't skip this. In this lesson, we went through C and O. So I'm going to ask my student, find me the letter that says K, and they should move the C. Now, if your student does have some background knowledge, they might also pull the K over. You can absolutely tell them, yeah, K does say K. Today we learned C says K, but both of these letters can. What says ah? And they should pull the O over. As they learn more, you will absolutely pull those into the lesson and pull in ones for them to review. So a couple of weeks from now, when they've learned 5 or 6 of these, you should still be pulling in C and O every so often to make sure that they've solidified that knowledge. This is our spelling page of the lesson. So you're going to ask students to spell words. For now, they're just going to be short nonsense words because they don't have all of the sounds in their tool belt yet. But you'll have them identify how many sounds they hear in the word. Again, that's segmenting or phonological awareness skill. And then you can help them find those sounds. So, for example, the first word that we're going to spell is ack. How many sounds do you hear in ack? A, k. There's 2. The vowel that says a is A. A. What says k? That is how we spell ack. And then you would reset, and you could go through the same process for words ek, ik, ok, uk. Again, they don't know all of the vowels yet, or they may not know all of the vowels yet, so help them with that, but they should be able to find that k sound. Then you'll go through with the ah sound as well. So ok, ah, ok, they should be able to spell independently. I'll go ahead and move those back up. And you can go through your list of words, have them do the phonological awareness portion each time, and then you'll move into sentence building. So what I do here is ask my students, okay, we have the words black, the, is, cat. Can you put those in order to make a real sentence? And they should be able to move the cat is, I'm going to move these up a little bit so that we have them. The cat, move these down. The cat is black. Now, if your student is struggling to move any of the pieces, you can absolutely have them tell you the order and you move them. You can have them tell you the order and you guys can talk about that. You can have them write it if they are working on handwriting on a whiteboard at home or on a piece of paper. It really is up to you, but what we want to see in this task is that they can put this sentence in order. I would also then tell my students, the cat is black. The should be capitalized here at the beginning of that sentence, just to work on some of those pieces as well. The silly sentence creation is a fun activity for students to build their own sentences here. So we've offered a couple of different options for the subject, or the who or what, as we call it with our students, a few for the predicate, or the did what, and a couple of different options for the adverbial, or the when, where, why, and how. At this age, I am just going to address these to my students as the who or the what, did what, why, where, when, or how. So let's say they picked the cat runs all day. That would be one combination they can use. Again, we would then talk about how the needs to be capitalized. All day would be followed by a period. Maybe we switch it around a little bit. The cat naps all day. Have you ever seen a cat nap? Great way to build those semantics and talk about how the sentence can come up with those visualizations in different pieces there. The cod, maybe they don't know what the cod is. We can talk about what would make sense. The cod is a type of fish, so that one would swim all day. So you can use this in a couple of different ways, but at the base level, we have students pick one of each, and then we'll build that sentence together. So that was a really quick run through for this lesson, but if you have questions, again, let us know in the comments. We want to make sure that all of you are supported in this transition to online learning as best we can. So please comment below. If you liked this video, we will be posting more with different grade level lessons in the coming weeks, so be sure to subscribe so that you can check those out as well. And yeah, we love connecting with you guys. Please connect on our social media. I'll link it below, and we look forward to hearing from all of you. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.